Guess who's f***ing ill again? Just seems I can't catch a break this season, can I? But I'm committed to bring you a comedy review this weekend, so a comedy review you will receive, even if it kills me in the process. Anyway, after Mexico helped fix my sleep schedule last weekend, it was time to move on to Brazil for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Or the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, because reasons. Hey there guys, I'm Will and welcome to FP1 and the comedy review, which thankfully isn't stuck in Miami, or getting kicked out of Mexican nightclubs. With Max Verstappen 19 points ahead of #NotSoBlessed, the Red Bull team were confident heading into the weekend, which ended up turning into be one of the most controversial of the year. Before we get into that, if you're new here and end up enjoying the video, don't forget to drop it a like and subscribe for videos like this every single week. But we've got a lot to get through today, so let's not waste any more time and get into the comedy review of the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. So, there may have been no news to talk about last week, but boy, I've got a lot to make up for it now. Let's start with friend of the channel Nikita Mazepin, who had a go at flirting again, after that went so well last time. The Russian driver found himself kicked out of a nightclub after the race in Mexico, and things wouldn't get much better after he got stuck in Miami and almost missed the race entirely. But hey, not the end of the world though, it's just Nikita Mazepin. We'll have a few less spins and no Haswatch, right? Well, not exactly. Turns out also stuck in Miami were all the cars and team equipment, and I can bring you exclusive footage of the FIA talking about this very issue.
I think we are absolutely fucked.
Bad weather had delayed everything being moved to Brazil, meaning by Thursday night, teams still weren't ready for running the following morning. Curfews were lifted so that teams could work through the night, meaning by FP1, the paddock resembled something more like the set of The Walking Dead. Speaking of first practice, it was going to be a busy one for the teams, since the universally loved sprint format was back for the last time in 2021. This meant teams had a lot to run in the hour before qualifying, but it was Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton on top, after a setup change to the Britain led to an increase in form for the 7-time world champion. Now I wonder if that change had anything to do with a rear wing. Lewis's weekend was dealt another blow after Mercedes forgot how to build a reliable engine, Hamilton needing a new ICE and the subsequent penalty dropping him back 5 spots on Sunday. This would be good news for Red Bull, with Verstappen and Perez hot on the heels of #Blessed in P2 and 3 respectively, as Gasly continued to put in a solid performance for AlphaTauri in 5th. One team that didn't look so hot though were McLaren, Norris and Ricciardo opting to return to the Honda days and finishing in P15 and 19. But with that covered, it was time for Friday qualifying. In Q1 saw both Williams and Haas drivers eliminated alongside the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. Now, if you've watched the comedy review in the past, this is the section where I have a go at Nikita Mazepin, but this time there really wasn't any need.
But I did. I am.
He was doing my job for me. Now Nikita really did seem beat up after Friday, as Twitter was gifted with this new meme format during the post-race interviews. Now most people watching might have had an ounce of compassion and sympathy for the guy. Guess it's a good thing I'm here then. Lewis Hamilton would once again end the session on top of the timesheets, and that would continue into Q2, as the 2 Alfa Romeos, Tsunoda, Vettel and Ocon were the 5 drivers eliminated. Now I won't lie, nothing of note really happened here, so let's just move on to Q3 as that's the only part of qualifying we actually care about. At this point everyone was expecting Red Bull to drop their sandbags and for the Dutch Messiah to sweep into P1. But that didn't happen. Instead, Max was 2 tenths down on the Mercedes of Hamilton after the first set of runs, with the team's official slave drivers of Bottas and Perez filling in P3 and 4. And after the final laps, this order would remain the same, Lewis extending the gap between himself and Verstappen and putting himself in the best place possible for the sprint. Now I wonder what could possibly go wrong from here. You see, after the session, we bore witness to one of the most controversial turning points in this year's championship, and if you got confused by any of it, don't worry, because I'll be here to take you through it in a new segment I'm calling the story of Hamilton's flaps. Now have fun getting that image out of your head. It all kicked off after qualifying, as Helmut Marko's one remaining eye noticed that Lewis Hamilton's flaps had been opening 0.2mm too much on the straights. How one notices such a detail is beyond me, but I guess we'll just look past that, won't we? So Red Bull, furious with Hamilton's flaps, decided to report them to the FIA, who had reportedly checked all the cars before qualifying and found no issues. They decided to confiscate Hamilton's flaps, which didn't make Mercedes very happy. The FIA found that though Hamilton's flaps were fine in some places, this wasn't true everywhere, and upon closer inspection, noticed that at some points along the wing, the flaps were bigger than was legally allowed in the rules. Normally, this would be the end of the story, and Hamilton would just be disqualified from qualifying, starting the sprint from the back. But you see, this is where things get a little bit more controversial. Fan footage from the track appeared to show Max Verstappen fondling Hamilton's flaps without his permission, with Mercedes now arguing that this could be the reason why they failed FIA testing after the session. This of course sent Twitter into an uproar, as the final decision was delayed for almost 24 hours while the FIA tried their best to clean this show up. Verstappen was called into the stewards early on Saturday morning, with the decision being made to hand him a 50k fine, which, let's be honest here, for a guy who makes money in the millions is nothing at all. It was Hamilton that got hit the hardest though, as Mercedes couldn't prove Verstappen's involvement triggered Hamilton's flaps being illegal. As a result, #Bless was disqualified from qualifying and would start the sprint in P20. Hey, at least Mazepin got that P19 he wanted after all. Now, in all seriousness, do I really think Verstappen's involvement really broke Hamilton's rear wing? No. I mean, where's the motivation when you're 19 points clear at the top and at a track where you can take the fight to Mercedes anyway? We now think it was a simple setup mistake which caused the flap to overextend during the qualifying run. But I will admit it did look a little sus how Red Bull had all this information ready and prepared in advance. On the bright side though, with Hamilton at the back, people could finally stop moaning that sprint races were boring. Then again, they'll probably moan anyway. Let's move on to that sprint then, and as the lights went out, it was a surprisingly good getaway from Valtteri Bottas, leaping ahead of Verstappen by turn 1. Another driver on the move was Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, who beat out Gasly and Perez on the start before sending one down the inside of Verstappen at turn 4. While Bottas sailed away at the front, there was further fights down the midfield, as Vettel jumped ahead a few places and the Alfa Romeos tussled with a slow-starting Fernando Alonso. This fight would end in catastrophe, however, as Giovinazzi told Alfa what he thought of their 2022 driver decision by punting his teammates off in lap 2. Meanwhile, #Blessed was flying, passing 4 cars by turn 1 and kept the Eurobeat flowing as he made his way past Stroll, Tsunoda, Giovinazzi, Alonso, Ricciardo. Jesus, this guy's on a mission. While Lewis climbed into the top 10, Verstappen had re-overtaken Sainz for second place and was closing in on Valtteri Bottas with a win, or pole if you want to call it that. However, Porridge Man's uncharacteristic day would continue as he managed to pace himself despite being on worn soft tyres by the end, keeping ahead of Verstappen right until the checkered flag. And the Mercedes resurgence wouldn't stop there, #Blessed defying the odds to eventually climb all the way up into P5, until his engine penalty pushed him back to 10th again. And with a good sprint race for once, everyone was excited for the main race on Sunday, so let's jump straight into the action. As Sunday rolled around, it looked as though Valtteri Bottas missed his morning dose of porridge, losing the lead to Verstappen on turn 1, then proceeding to give Red Bull an early Christmas present by letting Perez through as well. Meanwhile, the romantic duo of Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz had a bit of a domestic, as the McLaren dived to the outside and made contact with Sainz's front right tyre. Norris would find himself with a puncture as a result, and wouldn't be the only one in the wars, as Yuki Tsunoda Lance Stroll a few laps later, leaving AlphaTauri carbon fibre strewn over the circuit. Now, I've mentioned in the last couple of episodes that Yuki has been a bit of a sleeper agent for Mercedes. I mean, he held up Max in Austin, then took both Red Bulls out of qualifying 1 week ago in Mexico. And now, Agent Yuki had struck again, as by this point Hamilton had pulled another madness and was up to P3 behind only the Red Bull duo. On the restart, Verstappen led away comfortably, as Porridge Man found himself almost dropping further back, Charles Leclerc challenging the Mercedes at turn 4 but eventually settling for 5th. #Bless meanwhile was chasing after Sergio Perez, resulting in a dicey but fair battle between the two, with second place going back and forth. Hey, perhaps Max Verstappen should have a look at this, so he knows what fair defending looks like. Anyway, we'll get onto that a little bit later, as around this time we had a Haas driver without a front wing, and for once, it wasn't Nikita Mazepin. Before the weekend, Mick Schumacher had mentioned how it was a shame he hadn't had much of a chance to fight with Kimi Raikkonen this season. Well, today he got his chance, using it to drive into the side of the 2007 world champion. A virtual safety car for more debris allowed Bottas back past Perez, but now everyone's eyes were really on the front to see what almighty accident would occur when Hamilton attempted to pass Verstappen. On his first attempt with around 25 laps to go, it looked like the Mercedes had the edge, pulling to the outside around turn 4. However, the Dutch Messiah was having none of it, running wide and pushing Hamilton off the track to stay ahead. Now, should this have been a penalty? Well, of course it f***ing should have. I mean, even King of the Simps, Paul de Resta, admitted that it should have been, but turns out the stewards this weekend were either blind, stupid, or Dutch. Okay, rant over, let's just move on. So, as Toto Wolff was ordering a new table for the Mercedes garage, Hamilton had caught back up to Max once again. This time he was clear of the Dutchman by turn 4, and in one of the best weekends of his career, #Blessed had gone from last to first in Sao Paulo. Tell you what, I'm really starting to sound like a Hamilton simp now, aren't I? Sergio Perez would steal the fastest lap point on his final tour, meaning as we move into Qatar next week, the gap in the championship is down to just 14 points, and very much anyone's game again. And if you want my thoughts on the whole weekend, well, it's got to be one of the best of the year so far for me. We had a great sprint race for once and an even better main race on Sunday. If anything, it showed what happens when we get the fastest cars at the back. Reverse grids, anybody? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the comedy review, and if you did, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel for content like this every single week. And if you want to hear even more from me, then you can drop me a follow on Twitter and join our growing Discord community as well. All links for those you can find down in the description below. But that's all from me. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week, and I'll see you all in the next one.